Mom spots device on car, realizes she's being followed. She initially mistook the alert for spam, but when she received the alert again she decided to investigate whether her car was being followed or not. She was surprised to find out that it was. Melissa took out her phone and immediately dialed 911. Her heart was pounding and she felt like she couldn't breathe. Why would someone follow her? How long have they been following her? She went pale just thinking about these questions. Melissa had no clue that the person responsible for the ominous contraption was much closer than she imagined. Fridays for Melissa are usually quiet but not today. Today was a busy day, the whole week was busier than usual for her. Melissa was always in her car driving from one site to another. This was required of her as it was her job as a sales executive for a construction company. Her days consisted of being on the road and meeting clients and a variety of new people. Melissa was born to be a salesperson. She could sell ice to an Eskimo. It was impossible to say no to her lively personality and charming appearance. Her clients admired her, and her image as a valued and respected employee rose swiftly throughout the organization. But she could never have predicted that with her growing popularity would come a grim consequence. She looked at the tracking device with disbelief. Her head was spinning as she tried to call the authorities. Melissa had no idea that her entire life was about to be turned upside down. Melissa thought that she worked for an excellent company. Not only were her coworkers friendly, her bosses kind, but she also had amazing benefits. The company provided Melissa with a great car as well as a phone and a laptop. She received all the necessary healthcare benefits and then some. However, these perks did not come freely. Melissa's job was demanding and required a lot of her time and energy. This week in particular had been a tough one for Melissa. A weight was lifted off her shoulders when she finished her work at 7 p.m. Little did she know that her day had just begun. Exhausted, Melissa got in her car and started driving home. She was consumed by her thoughts when they were suddenly interrupted by an urgent notification from her phone. How strange, she thought. She discarded the message as spam and continued to get lost in thought. She immediately received the notification again. It was clear to Melissa that this was not a spam message and she had to stop and read the notification. The message informed her that an Apple AirTag device was moving with her. She did not understand what that meant and she was certain it was just spam. Just to make sure that everything was alright, she stepped out of her car and inspected the car. She quickly saw a red flashing light behind her registration plate. At that moment she knew the messages were real. Melissa's heart dropped to her stomach. What does this mean? Confused, Melissa searched the device on the internet. She couldn't believe it. A tracking device? Melissa knew that this device was on her car for a reason. The thought of someone intentionally planting a device in order to follow sent chills through her spine. Who would do something like this? Melissa quickly dialed 911 while she removed the device from her registration plate. Relief washed over her when they answered her call, but nothing could have prepared Melissa when she found out what the authorities discovered. The cops frequently dealt with these devices, so they immediately knew how to pinpoint its owner. They questioned Melissa for quite a while, inquiring about her whereabouts and who she had met during the week. And if there was any cause for people to loathe her. Melissa was quick to respond to the inquiries. No one seemed to mind her, she was always kind to everyone she met. Melissa had no idea that the perpetrator was closer than she imagined. Melissa immediately locked her door behind her when she got home. Her mind was running a mile a minute. Who did this? How long has this person been stalking her? She put her children to bed and made sure that every entrance to her house is locked. She felt confused and terrified. Melissa climbed into bed, knowing she won't be able to sleep, but it was worth a try. Right before she closed her eyes she received another notification. It was a message from her boss asking if she was still at work. How strange, thought Melissa. She informed him that she finished work a few hours ago. Melissa woke up the next day to a call from the station. The cops told her to drop by. They found out who the tracking device belonged to. She jumped in the car immediately. When she arrived at the station, she was surprised to see her boss there. Perhaps the cops called him because the device was attached to the company car. The truth, however, was much more shocking. The cops told Melissa that the tracking device belonged to her boss, Michael. She looked at him in shock. He looked at her defiantly. He briefly apologized before explaining that it was a new company regulation. They began to track their company cars to try to make sure their employees weren't abusing the company's trust and gas allowance. Melissa was completely astonished. Not only did she feel completely betrayed, but she had been working at the company as a high-earning employee for years. She felt completely disrespected. She looked at the cop and her boss. This is completely illegal, right? She asked the cop. His answer blew her mind. Surprisingly, it is. It's completely legal to track any company-owned devices and vehicles in the US. Once we discovered it was your boss tracking you, without your knowledge, we thought it might be best to get you both in here to defuse the situation," the cop said. Although tracking devices and vehicles can be done without employee consent, it is highly advisable to get consent before you practice this policy. A sudden spark of anger ignited in Melissa. How was this legal? Shouldn't it be illegal to place a tracking device on an employee's car without their knowledge? Her blood boiled as she felt like her rights were being trampled on. In her mind, it was a basic right to be told and be aware of any policy changes that would affect her working environment. But not everyone felt that way.